Did you guys know that Ron Howard has a new movie that just came out in theaters this weekend? Yeah, it's called Eden. It stars Ana de Armas, Jude Law, and Sydney Sweeney. Is it any good? So Eden starts out in 1929 and takes place in the Galapagos Islands. It makes it clear at the beginning of the film through on-screen text that this is a collection of stories gathered from different survivors of the events we're about to see. However, as the film goes on and the final credits reveal, it's really skewed more towards one specific person's tellings of what happened. But let's start with the good. Ana de Armas is fantastic in this movie. The versatility of her character is unpredictable, which makes her really fun and exciting, and there was just so much for her to do, and I think she executes it perfectly. Jude Law, also fantastic. He plays a German doctor who has secluded himself in the Galapagos Islands for the last 4 years in an attempt to write the next big philosophical book of his that is supposed to be the meaning of life, so to speak. It's also pretty clear at the beginning that he has a very cynical viewpoint of the world and is kind of given up on humanity as a whole. But don't worry, because this book he's writing is going to save humankind from themselves. His biggest supporter is his partner, played by Vanessa Kirby, who is suffering from multiple sclerosis. Also, she's hella paranoid about her neighbors. Speaking of the neighbors, the Sydney Sweeney clan shows up to the Galapagos Island, starring Sydney Sweeney's husband, played by Daniel Bruhl, and her stepson, played by Jonathan Tittle. This movie does a really good job of setting up how dangerous and scary this island feels. Like, we see this giant-ass centipede climb into the bag of Sydney Sweeney, and Vanessa Kirby's like, oh yeah, don't even go near that thing. That sting is lethal. So we start to kind of get this feeling that anything is out there lurking in the forest or in this island that really makes you feel uneasy. This place is not a place you want to spend time or live or set up camp. But this family is now stranded here and has to do something. So Jude Law points them in the direction of what he would call a good campsite, which is not. But this family, they find a way. And this is one of the other really fascinating, enjoyable parts of the movie, is this whole section where they're developing their campsite. There's just something really fun about watching humans make shit, you know, like build a living in a camp. And honestly, by the end of it, I was like, damn, I want to live at that camp. That looks sick. But anyway, the next big wrinkle, or really the inciting incident of the rest of the plot of the movie, is when Ana de Armas' character shows up with about 5 or 6 strapping young lads and decides to build a hotel on this island. Well, she's a little bit of a delusional, wealthy, wannabe actress type character who calls herself the Baroness. She's super fun. Once she arrives and is totally underprepared for the conditions that this island are offering, she starts to run out of supplies fairly quickly. And that's really when the problems start to develop on this island. These 3 different kind of factions that are all working to survive and a little bit hesitant to help or aid each other because the survival conditions are just so intense. So primal instincts and animalistic urges and human nature is tested to the fullest, and thus is our movie Eden. Okay, so yeah, I actually really enjoyed the entire setup of this movie, and I liked the emphasis on the ambiguity of all of these characters. You didn't really know which turns these characters were going to take, specifically like Jude Law's character. He was one of the most morally gray people in the film, and being that he was kind of asking these philosophical questions, we would get into his head as he's writing the novel that he's writing, and I was really interested to see the questions it was going to continue to ask us about what are people willing to do to survive. And that's really the big setup to this whole movie, which is a really, really engaging premise to me, I feel. And I had some minor criticisms throughout this movie that, you know, some things like Sydney Sweeney's accent, I felt like at times was really distracting, but then in other times there are some just really powerhouse performance moments from her that I was really impressed by. Another thing with our kind of core family, they're supposed to be our main kind of protagonists, but I just don't feel like we got to connect with them very well, specifically the son, because for the first hour of the movie, he has like 2 minutes of screen time, and then suddenly when the plot needs him, he starts having, you know, more dialogue, more screen time, and I was really moved by him, and I was like, dang, this is a good character, and I wish we would have gotten more from him that could have been more effective in setting up his character arc later. And I also kind of feel like the movie then just also drops or neglects him as a character in its final moments as well. So I think that's the nature of it being based on true events. When a film is structured around true historical events, it can sometimes just be like, we're going to tell you things that happened, but a work of fiction maybe would have set things up a little bit more carefully to have payoff to some of these things. And because if I just tell you what happened in my day-to-day life, like, there's not a lot of payoff to a lot of the things that happen, right? Like, you have to craft that in your narrative. And so I feel like there were a lot of loose ends that just didn't really come to fruition. So yeah, I guess we're into full-on criticism mode. But it becomes clear that one character is suddenly maybe the primary viewpoint or primary focus, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but when it's revealed in the final credits that actually this character is based on a true, real person, and that the main story this is based on is the writings of this one character, it honestly kind of was like a sucker punch. It was like, okay, so that's why so much of these character moments at the end felt unearned, because I felt like the movie was doing such a great job of setting up this feeling of moral ambiguity and gray area and let's analyze human behavior. But then in its final moments, it was like, actually, this one character is morally right, is actually smarter than everyone else in the room. I don't know, it just kind of left this like shitty feeling of like an untrustworthy narrator type of feel, you know, that I get from sometimes biopics. I get that it wasn't a work of fiction, but I think it would have been better as a piece of fiction, where they could have actually crafted the story with more nuance, and the character journey for said character would have felt more earned. But instead, it just kind of felt like it was being told to us. And it just sucks, because I was really, really enjoying this movie. This story had the potential to propose different questions about what it means to be a human and what the purpose of life is, which is what it continued to try to talk about early on. And in the end, it just didn't feel like it had anything to say about that. The movie just kind of lacks narrative conviction and thematic conviction. It's just like, hey, I read this one book about a survivor on the Galapagos Island, and even though there's a bunch of other cool stories that have happened and potentially this opportunity to explore why everyone was doing what they were doing, it's like, nah, I read this one where it's very clearly like their hero's perspective. And I don't know, it just... Maybe if it had been set up that way, maybe if it was like this clearly is a hero and they're villains. But if we're going to do that, then let's commit and let's make us buy into our heroes. Let's love the heroes and care about them a little bit more. And I just didn't, because the movie was kind of holding back, which I thought was an intentional artistic choice that was making it more interesting, because it was a melting pot of human behavior and psychoanalysis. And I like that shit, you know? Anyway, I'm going off here a little bit. So I was disappointed and kind of bummed out by its finale. And as it sat with me on the way home, it was like, yeah, I enjoyed watching the movie. I think cinematography was great. I liked the Hans Zimmer music. I thought the performances overall were really good. It just left me feeling like missed opportunity, you know? So yeah, it's not the kind of movie I think I would ever rewatch. Ultimately, I have to rate this movie 2.5 out of 5 Komodo dragons. That's where I'm at with it. Yeah. What did you guys think of Eden? Have you guys seen it? Did you even know it was out? I mean, I think it was a limited release because it's not at the main like theater chain that I go to, so I had to go to a different theater to see it. Anyway, yeah, if you saw it, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. We'll catch you in the next video, guys. Thanks for liking, subscribing, follow me on Letterboxd. Love ya.